Welcome to the Superstar Communicator podcast. My name is Susan Heaton-Wright, a leading impact, speaking and communications expert. My aim is to show you how to make an impact so you will be heard, listened to and respected for career success. Listen weekly to the podcast and go to our website, superstarcommunicator.com. Hello everybody, this is Susan Wright from Superstar Communicator. Thank you very much for tuning in today. As you know, as I speak, we're in lockdown in the United Kingdom with the coronavirus. I don't have the coronavirus, but it's in order to ensure that we are safe. And I am absolutely thrilled to have Martin Conway on the other end of the internet from North Carolina in the United States. Martin actually contacted me via LinkedIn to connect with me, and he was really interested in the work of the Superstar Communicator and what I'm doing, for which I feel really privileged that he reached out to me and to interview me and to introduce himself to me. He is a former professional footballer or soccer player, as you say in the United States, who currently resides in Charlotte, North Carolina, with his wife and 4 young children. He's an experienced leader of people, a business builder, and an advocate for personal accountability. Martin grew up in the United Kingdom and has called the USA home since 1995. His experience includes moving across the world as a teenager to start a new life, relationships with cancer and ALS, and learning how to navigate and succeed as an introvert in the corporate environment. Martin is a healthcare and self-care leader and is focused on promoting a conversation, understanding, and community. Always learning, which all the best people do. So welcome, Martin.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I was so grateful when you reached out to me on LinkedIn. I was very flattered, actually. What made you think, I'll contact her?
I think, first of all, LinkedIn, I think is a wonderful platform, and it's underutilized. So I've been on LinkedIn actively for probably about 10 or 11 months. And I forget precisely how we got connected. It may have been an article that you'd written or a podcast that you had publicized, and somebody liked it within my network. So that's how we got connected there. And that's then amazing. What I loved was just the focus on communication. You know, it's this technological age that we are in. I think many people, and I was one of these, I was still living in that kind of industrial age mindset, despite all these thousands and thousands of reminders around me every day that technology is the way to go. So effective communication is always something I've gravitated towards, not because I'm an expert, but because I believe that it's a fundamental transaction with human beings. And if we can effectively communicate with each other and understand each other, I think that's the basis for a community that I'd like to be a part of. So that's how we got connected, and that's what attracted me to the work and the content that you consistently put out on that platform.
Oh, thank you very much, Martin. And it is very interesting. You've hit the nail on the head that we do have to communicate with each other, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. It's I don't. We may get into this shortly, but I think sometimes, and I'm using that term loosely. Sometimes I think people just want to share their perspective and shout people down and assume that they are right. And they come from that position that they have nothing to learn. So I think as much as we can try and understand and hold true to our values, but couch it all in understanding and working together and making progress moving forward, I think that to me is a bit more of a sustainable way of living and being, as opposed to just trying to shout people down because we are right or they are wrong or vice versa.
I agree. And I think it would be reasonable to say that both in your country and my country, there has been a trend for that type of communication in the last couple of years?
I completely agree. I completely agree. I can only give the lens truly from a US perspective. Now, it's funny you say my country. I've been here for 20 years, but I still feel torn. I go back to the UK often. So yeah, I'm here, but I still keep in touch with what happens over in the UK. And there's been a huge shift in the last 3 or 4 years here to, you know, distrust, animosity, hostility, and it's not everybody, but it's prevalent, and it seems to be driven. Um, Obviously, it's driven through fear to a certain degree, but again, that's not sustainable. And I am seeing a shift, truthfully, in the last couple of weeks with the virus that we're all trying to navigate and deal with. There's been a shift and almost this awareness or this kind of rebirth of people thinking, oh, I can't really talk to people as much as I would like to before. I really miss that. So I'm hopeful that it could be one of the positive outcomes of what we're going through right now, because the yelling at each other and the fake news this, and you label somebody a righty, a lefty, that's really not going to get us, that's not going to move the ball forward, as they say over here, and help build a sort of community that I think we want to leave a world that's better than the one we inherited.
Oh, absolutely. Only today, one of my acquaintances said that he had been contacting people far more in the last week or so on calls with people he hadn't seen for a while, or picking up the phone.
Yeah.
Because we're human, we are social animals, aren't we?
Yeah, we absolutely are. And again, it's I don't know how this is all going to play out for all of us with this terrible situation going on, but I think that when we come out the other side, I'm hopeful that we can be and come from a place of gratitude and understanding, and maybe treat each other a bit nicer. And that doesn't mean that we all become wallflowers and don't hold on to our values, but there's a way that we can do that without, you know, being maybe so hostile or so loud, or, you know, trying to push our agenda at the expense of everybody else.
Yes. So you mentioned that you're navigating and succeeding as an introvert in a corporate environment. You work for a big pharmaceutical company. How are you able to manage that virtually? Because that's the way that we're having to communicate now, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's an interesting shift. So if we had had this conversation 2 weeks ago, my answer would have been similar, but a little bit different, because now we're 100% exclusively virtual. The organization that I'm proud to represent, they went into they basically mandated effective last Friday that we were going to be working virtually for at least until the middle of April. So I think some of the same themes apply, Susan, whether it's in person, physically in the same room, or it's virtually. And for me, virtually is a bit more of a challenge. I tend to be a quick speaker, and I tend to try and watch the room and look for the nonverbal signs that I'm talking too quickly, or the point I thought I was trying to make didn't land with people. That can be a bit trickier from a virtual perspective. But to me, I just try and be authentic on the line. I try and have a clear agenda, and I try and talk slowly. And then some say, here's the purpose of our conversation today. If it's a larger group, so here's what we're going to talk about. And you talk about it, you try and engage and be authentic, and throw some self-deprecating humor tends to be one of my go-to moves. And then summarize. But I think just be authentic and be you. And I got great advice from one of my mentors this week about this particular issue. And she said to me, listen, she said, I know it's a different move for lots of us to be doing this virtually. We're so used to in-person meetings. She said, but be the leader. She said, if you come across and think this is weird, that energy will transcend to your audience. She said, so just don't make it weird. And I thought, okay, I'll do that. I'll not make it weird. So a sign behind my desk here just says, don't make it weird. And be the leader and lead through this. So that's kind of an overview of what I'm trying to do in the last week or so of this virtual world.
I think that's a brilliant piece of advice from your mentor, though, isn't it?
I think so. She's a straight talker like me, Susan. So I really like her, and she just gives it to me straight. So I think it's a new world for all of us as we navigate. And
Yeah.
I think, as we touched upon in our previous conversation, it's trying to come from a place of understanding. Everybody has this anxiety right now, family, friends, and their own personal situation. They're trying to navigate through here with all of these unknowns that we're currently dealing with. So to not make it weird is something I can control. And I love the advice, and I'm just trying to take it to heart in my various interactions with my team.
And I would imagine that when you're in these conversations, you are in a leadership.
That's correct.
Okay, so people are looking for reassurance to you, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. People are looking for reassurance. Yeah, to answer your question, absolutely, people are looking for reassurance. And the team I currently am fortunate to lead, there are 11 people on the team, 8 females, most of whom have children and families and parents themselves. And then the 3 males, all of whom have elderly parents and families of themselves as well. So again, with a team of that size, if you think of the stakeholders and the people that these folks, the families that are behind them, you're talking, 40, 50, 60 people there. So I think it's really important to build some flexibility into these virtual touch points, just to kind of go around the line and, hey, Erin, how's your family? How's your daughter? And how's your wife? How just spend a few minutes trying to connect with a human being. It's, yes, we have professional responsibilities that we have to achieve and discuss and work through, and we will get to those. But I think trying to put the human being first and build in that extra time at the beginning, that maybe we don't stay completely on time, but I'm finding value in putting the human being first and allowing people just to talk and share and talk about how they're doing. Because you mentioned a few minutes ago, we're social animals, and we're very restricted right now in our ability to do that. So building that time has been important.
You sound like an amazing boss.
Hey, thanks. That could be the peak of my day right there, Susan. I'm going to keep that one and remember that if I'm having a rough one. So thanks.
Write it down. But I think that you're absolutely right to build that in. One of the things that I'm doing now more is webinars that I would actually be doing face masterclasses. And I've organisers, let's add on an extra 30 minutes, because a lot of these people are going to be working on their own and not used to being on their own when they work. They miss their colleagues. So let's just have, some fun things. You might not think they're fun. You might think they're a waste of time, but actually this is just giving people an opportunity to re-engage and feel part of a team again.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea, and it's something I'm going to take and apply. Honestly, I'd love to talk to you more about that, maybe offline. But I think activities like that, I think anything that we can do right now, this probably applies socially too to some degree, but anything we can do professionally to connect people and help build that kind of that virtual culture within our respective teams is something that I think we've kind of taken a sharp turn here in professional world with going to the virtual side of things, but I think that is something that we will sustain moving forward. And if there's building these virtual cultures and the identity, it's a slightly different approach virtually versus in person. So I would love to learn more about that from you.
Well, I'm still learning, and and it might be that in 6 months' time I might do it slightly differently.
Yeah.
Although people will be more used to working in this way, but as we start doing it, I introduce it to my clients as well. I just want to try things and be brave.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things I would give you some recognition here. You put yourself out there, Susan. I think it's something that we often forget, and that it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there and to say, this is what I stand for. And you've done that consistently. So I think that's a sign to kind of turn it back on you. You mentioned earlier on that always learning, and that's something I'm very proud of. And I've not always been that way, but I think that's a sign that, yeah, you should be doing things differently in 6 months, and I should be doing things differently in 6 months, because if I am truly learning and applying it, I'll make tweaks along the way and make some mistakes and do some good stuff, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Just one day at a time, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've hit the nail on the head with the whole situation that we're in at the moment, which is, take one step at a time, take every day at a time, rather than being overwhelmed by the situation.
I think so. That's the approach that I'm trying to take. And again, uh, life has shown me different things. And as you mentioned, I had a few difficult healthcare situations. One with my younger brother, who lost his life several years ago to ALS, or motor neuron disease, as it's called in the UK. And then I
I'm
had
so
my own
sorry.
thanks. I had my own cancer situation. So those situations eventually taught me just to be grateful for every day. We have no guarantees, and so truthfully, that's been a mindset shift for me. That just to take one day at a time, and none of us are perfect, but if your intents are pure and good, and you're trying to contribute and make a difference, then you make some mistakes, you forgive yourself, you fix it with the people you need to fix it with, and then just one day at a time and move forward. We are all a work in progress, and doing the best we can. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
I think that in the world that we're in at the moment, being grateful for what we have is so important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, and I think we sometimes lose sight of that. At least I do. Um, but I think trying to be grounded in gratitude, and I don't know about you, but for a long time I associated gratitude with complacency, thinking that if I was grateful, that meant that I was complacent, and complacency was a word that kind of, I got goosebumps when I heard that word. I didn't like it, but now I realize that you could be absolutely grateful for what you have. That doesn't mean that you just have to accept and be and let those things that are maybe not as good, or they're not as positive as you would like. You can still work on those. I can be grateful for everything, but still work to improve. So I'm with you on the gratitude piece. And I don't know, have you always been
Yeah.
grateful, or is that something that changed over time?
I'm just as you're speaking, I'm thinking about how I considered gratitude when I was younger. I almost thought that there was an element of patronization about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so grateful, thank you so much, doff doff. And that could well be a British thing, the British social class
Yes.
system. It's ingrained in us, as you probably know. Um, but yes, and maybe the word gratitude has changed with time, that other people have taken ownership of the word, so
Hmm.
that it's such a more empowering
Yeah.
word. I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. I like that. I like the inclusion of empowerment there at the end. That yeah, I want to begin every day with gratitude. And my wife and I, we have 4 young children. So honestly, if one of the twins wakes me up at 4 a.m., I'm not going to tell you that I'm grateful at that point in time. But in the grand scheme of life, I try and come from that place of gratitude, and I like the empowerment piece too. Again, to me, it's I want to be empowered and contribute and try and improve every single day. And is that idealistic? Yep, probably. Do I improve every day? I don't know, but that's my objective. And again, it's this gift of life that we've been given. You turn on any TV screen right now, and we're bombarded with negative news and fear and awful
Yeah.
situations. I think gratitude and empowerment. I love that connection that you made there.
Yes. My grandma, she died when she was 97.
Wow,
She would always sing, and one of her favourite songs was Sweet Molly Malone, the Irish song.
they do.
And I remember as a little tiny girl saying to her, "Why are you singing, Mima?" And she said, "It's better than crying." So what do you to sing in your mind? Your person, not physically singing perhaps, but making you sing with joy rather than crying.
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
Sorry. thrown
That's
that on you.
no, that's okay. Give me a second. I'll give you an honest answer here. Just give me a moment to ponder and reflect. I don't want to just react to the question. Um, I think for me, um, there's an anthem, Jerry and the Pacemakers from Merseyside. You know, the "You'll Never Walk Alone" song.
Yes,
Um,
yeah,
it obviously has some football connotations, and it's been taken over by some couple of teams, and that's okay. So I'm not going to go down that direction. But I think as a song, my brother loved that song, and when he was
yeah.
going through motor neuron disease, it's a song that you know, it just talks about the ebbs and flows of life to me, and ultimately knowing that you won't be alone, that there will always be people that will stand next to you and behind you and be there with you. That to me is just very empowering, and I get borderline emotional every time I hear the song, and every time I talk about it or watch old videos. That's a song that just empowers me, to know that, you know, people came before you, people will come after us, but you know, we're part of a bigger picture, and we're connected in so many different ways. So that to me is a song that empowers me. Susan.
Oh, that's brilliant. And I hope after this podcast interview, you'll go away and have a sing along or find it on the internet so you can sing.
I sure will. I sure will. My 13-year-old daughter won't like that because I'll be more weird, as she says, but you have my word. I will go and have a sing along to Jerry the
Yeah,
Pacemaker.
but that's 13-year-old teenagers, isn't it? They always think their parents are weird.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if they always do. I know that mine does. And I've honestly, if eye rolling was an Olympic sport, she would breeze through the qualification, breeze through it.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Teenagers don't change, do they?
Because you know what? I never roll my eyes, ever. At no
No,
point.
never, never. It's just a new thing that's happened. Isn't that weird?
That's true.
So, one of the things I always ask my guests, and I think that it's relevant here, is to share 3 top spoken communication tips that you can share with the audience. Now, let's try and put you in on the spot a little bit more and really think about the current situation where we're all self-isolated, remote working.
Okay. I appreciate I appreciate the question. I think remote work, and I touched on this earlier. I think to me, I would be very, very clear on your purpose of connecting with people virtually. Why are they on the line? What is our specific professional purpose, or the 2 or 3 issues that we have to discuss and resolve today? So I would have a very clear purpose in the discussion. I think that's clear. I think that what can happen if you don't have a clear purpose is the call can meander, and then everybody feels like they need to, you know, speak up and pile on, and you know, so I think you need to have a very clear purpose. Number 2, as I mentioned, I think you do need to build in a tiny bit of personal check-in time. Now, you can obviously do that to whatever degree you feel is appropriate, but to me, I think that human connection is important, and I think it can help really build a connection with people, especially when we feel isolated, and we are isolated, and we're not really sure when this will end. So to me, I think
Yes.
clarity of purpose, building in some fun time, and then I think having real clear follow-up actions, or you know, the output from the meeting. I think it's very, very clear. We do obviously still have professional obligations and people and organizations that we're trying to serve. So to me, clear purpose, clarity of what we are and are not going to discuss, building in some fun and a human element, and then being very, very crystal clear on the actions and the deliverables coming out of these interactions.
Brilliant. And is there a third one, or did you merge 2?
That would be it would be 1 would be clear, clarity of purpose. Number 2 would be fun / the human element. And then number 3 would be the follow-up deliverables. So again, clarity comes in twice there, but clear up.
That's good.
Yep.
And I'm all in favor of clarity.
I am too. I think it could be a cultural thing for me or the team, or again, I live in North Carolina, which people can debate whether it's the South or the middle or wherever, but people are very, very friendly in North Carolina. And what that means is that everybody can sometimes feel the need to share. And a 15-minute conversation for you or I, maybe, or people who are a bit more maybe matter of a fact, that can quite easily creep into 25, 30, 45 minutes. And before you know it, you're still on the line, and then you're trying to salvage the purpose of the phone call and maintain the dignity of those people on the line. It can be a challenge. So those would be the 2 or 3 things I would focus on from a virtual perspective.
Yes, and I think that because we can't pick up as much from the other person as if we were face to face, it is really important that we maintain clarity with any conversation.
I think so, and it's something I struggle with. I think I touched on it earlier. I struggle with not being able to get the sense of the room, and the room could be the Zoom screen with 10 or 12 people on, and it's very hard to know when you've lost somebody, or the point has not been fully understood, or maybe I'm not interpreting or understanding the point that people are trying to share with me. So it can be a challenge there.
Absolutely. And if anybody's got any ideas about this, let us know. I've got a couple, but certainly I would ask more questions. And you know how sometimes people say when you're leading, you shouldn't be saying, do you understand what I mean? Or do you all get that?
Yeah.
Because it can be seen as undermining yourself. In this situation, because we don't have the normal cues, I believe that it's perfectly acceptable to do that. I don't know if you agree with me on that one.
Sorry, the line. So is it okay in these circumstances to ask people, do you understand me, or am I being clear, or a variation thereof?
Yes.
Yeah, I think personally, I think that's
fine.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fine. And a phrase that one of my colleagues uses is, can somebody play back for me the summary of that discussion? Can somebody, summarize for the team the direction that we're going to take? So then it's maybe not the leader, projecting, it's somebody else from the team in their own words, kind of summarizing the discussion that we've had. So that's another tool that one of my colleagues has started using recently, and it's effective. I find it to be an effective tool and an effective way to do it. Sometimes it can come across as condescending, but again, you pick and choose the right time to do it. If it's, but that's another tool. I love your questions approach. And then I do think it's absolutely okay to say, does that make sense? Or do you understand? Or is everybody clear?
Yes. Yeah. So before we go, know that you, another gentleman called Jerry Rosenthal, could you tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing?
I'd love to. Yeah, thanks. Jerry and I have started a project called the Easily Offended Club. And Jerry couldn't be with us today. It's with the current situation going on that we're all aware of. He was unable to join us, and he's disappointed about that. Hopefully he can join us again in the future.
Yeah, we can have another podcast specifically about it with both of you on the line.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, we would love that. So this is a project that is focused on building a community and building a conversation, but at its root, it's about building understanding. And it touches on some of the discussion that you and I had a few moments ago about being understanding and being compassionate, and in a world where people are yelling at each other, and in corporate societies or corporate workplaces where we are becoming more remote, and you are interacting with people who maybe come from different countries, different belief systems. It's critical that we learn how to navigate that world together, and the different situations that can come up if we're so entrenched in our own view and so reluctant to listen and acknowledge and maybe adapt our way of doing things because we just don't really want to do it. That to me is not a sustainable way of building a society, of building workplace cultures, building a community. So we decided to start doing some work around this concept of people being easily offended. We've done several podcasts. We have done various articles, and we're looking just to build this platform, build this community to empower people that it's okay to be different, and it's absolutely okay to have your beliefs and your identity and what is important to you. We every single person has that. That doesn't mean that other people don't have the same rights to do that. And we can work through these things together if we come from a place of compassion and understanding, as opposed to a place of divisiveness and fear and this perception that I'm right and the other person is wrong. So we do lots of work around that, and we'd love to talk to you about that at some point in the future.
Yeah, I'd be delighted to. And I'm sure, listeners, you would be really interested in this, because there are listeners from all over the world. So I'm absolutely certain that this would be of value and interest to my listeners.
Oh, wonderful. We'd be delighted to join you at some point in the future here. And anybody on the line who's got any feedback or advice on this topic, I'd love to listen and learn, because we're in this together. So yeah, I'd be delighted to do that.
Brilliant. So before we go, is there any that people can get in contact with you if they doubt more about your work?
Sorry, Susan, there was a slight delay, I believe. The easiest way is through LinkedIn. I'm not sure if you do, summary notes, but feel free. I can send you my email address as well, and you can include that in any follow-up communication. But LinkedIn would be the easiest way. I will 100% respond to every message that comes in. Same for emails. It may take me a day or so, but I will return every message. That's the easiest way currently to get in touch with me or my colleague, Jerry.
Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you so much, Martin, for being such an inspiring guest on the podcast. I'm going to be sharing this probably tomorrow or Saturday. So, right in the middle of this virus situation, because people will be so inspired by your leadership style and how caring you are whilst being professional.
Oh, great. That's really humbling. I'm grateful for the feedback, and thanks a lot for the opportunity to be on the podcast with you. And I love your work, and I'm proud to be associated with you, and I wish you the very best for the future.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Until next time, this is Susan from Superstar Communicator. You have been listening to the Superstar Communicator podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and review the podcast on iTunes and on apps. Please contact us if you want to discuss any topic, could suggest a topic for us to include, or a guest who could come onto the podcast. Go to superstarcommunicator.com.